The Silent Watchers. The vast observation deck of the Galactic Confederation flagship Eternal Dawn offered an unobstructed view of the cosmos. Commander Ilara Voss stood motionless before the panoramic viewport, her reflection ghosting against the stars. Behind her, the ship's bridge hummed with activity as officers moved with practiced efficiency, but their hushed tones betrayed the tension permeating the vessel. "Another outpost gone silent," said First Officer Tavik, his scaled skin catching the blue light of the holographic display as he approached. "That makes 7 in the last standard month." Ilara nodded without turning. "Pattern? None that we can determine. Each outpost was in a different sector, different defensive capabilities, different species in command." Tavik's four-fingered hand swept through the floating star chart. "The only commonality is this." He tapped a command into his datapad, and the ship's speakers emitted a burst of static followed by a voice that seemed to bypass normal hearing and speak directly to the mind. "Return what was stolen. The debt remains unpaid." Ilara suppressed a shiver. "Has the linguistic division made any progress?" "That's the disturbing part, Commander." Tavik lowered his voice. "They've identified the language pattern. It's human." At this, Ilara finally turned from the viewport, her expression hardening. "That's impossible. Humans have been extinct for over 2,000 years. Their system was destroyed when their star went nova." "I know the history, Commander, but the linguistic markers are unmistakable. This is a human language pattern, albeit evolved over time." Ilara took the datapad, studying the analysis. Her dark eyes narrowed as she scrolled through the data. As the Confederation's foremost xenorchaeologist before joining the military, she had studied the fragmentary remains of human civilization. The extinct species had barely achieved spaceflight before their sudden extinction, according to historical records. "Prepare a scout team," she decided. "I want to see Outpost Sigma-7 myself." "The most recent casualty," Tavik noted. "It's still an active debris field. Might be dangerous." "That's why I'm going personally. Something doesn't add up, and I intend to find out what." The shuttle journey to Sigma-7 was tense. Ilara reviewed the outpost's final transmissions while the pilot navigated through the asteroid field that had once been a mining colony, supporting over 3,000 Confederation citizens. As they approached the debris field, Ilara donned her EVA suit and prepared for external reconnaissance. "Stay within communication range," she instructed the pilot. "If anything unusual occurs, retreat immediately and contact the Eternal Dawn." "Understood, Commander. Be careful out there." Ilara launched from the shuttle's airlock, her suit's thrusters giving her precise control as she navigated the floating remnants of the outpost. The destruction was surgical. Key systems had been targeted while residential sections remained largely intact, though exposed to vacuum. This wasn't random violence. It was calculated, precise. Her suit's sensors alerted her to an anomaly, a power signature emanating from what had been the outpost's central data core. According to the schematics, this section should have been completely destroyed in the attack. "I'm detecting a power source," she reported to the shuttle, moving to investigate. As she approached the semi-intact data core, her suit's communication system suddenly filled with static. Through the interference, that same voice emerged. "Observer detected. Identity confirmed. Ilara Voss, former head researcher, Confederation Historical Division. Your curiosity is noted." Ilara froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" "We know all those who study us. You've spent your career analyzing our artifacts, our history, our supposed extinction. Your theories came closest to the truth." "My theories?" Ilara's mind raced. Years ago, before joining the military, she had published a controversial paper suggesting that the nova that destroyed the human home system might not have been a natural occurrence. Her colleagues had dismissed it as speculation without evidence. "You wondered if we destroyed ourselves to prevent something worse. You were partially correct." The floating debris around her shifted, moving against the laws of physics to form a rough corridor leading deeper into the ruins. It was an impossible display of matter manipulation that no Confederation technology could achieve. "Commander," the pilot's voice broke through the static. "We're detecting spatial anomalies throughout the debris field. Recommend immediate extraction." "Negative," Ilara replied, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. "I'm being guided somewhere. Maintain position." She followed the corridor of suspended debris, eventually reaching what had been the outpost's quantum communications array. At its center floated a device unlike any Confederation technology she had ever seen, a sphere of what appeared to be liquid metal, constantly shifting and reforming, emitting a soft blue glow. "A fragment of us," the voice explained, "left behind to watch and record. One of millions scattered throughout the stars." "Who is us?" Ilara asked, though she already suspected the answer. "We called ourselves human once. That definition has evolved." The liquid metal sphere expanded, projecting images into the vacuum around her. Historical records, but not as she knew them. These showed humans far more advanced than the historical record indicated, preparing for something. Massive ships being constructed in orbit around Earth, population centers being evacuated, a plan being executed with desperate precision. "You didn't go extinct," Ilara whispered. "You faked your extinction. We had no choice. We were being hunted." "Hunted? By whom?" The sphere projected new images, sleek ships of unmistakable Confederation design, though more primitive than current technology, observing Earth from a distance. "By your ancestors, the founders of what you now call the Galactic Confederation." Ilara shook her head in disbelief. "That's impossible. The Confederation was founded on principles of peace and mutual cooperation. After we were gone, perhaps. But before, they saw our potential, what we might become if allowed to develop naturally. They feared us. Why are you revealing this to me now, after 2,000 years of silence?" The liquid metal sphere contracted slightly, its glow dimming. "Because the attacks have begun. Not by us. We have maintained our silence, our observation. But others have returned. Those who escaped beyond the boundaries we establish." "Others? You mean other humans?" "We fragmented. Some of us chose to evolve beyond physical form. Others maintained their humanity but developed their own civilizations far from Confederation space. And some," the sphere pulsed ominously, "some harbored resentment that festered over centuries. They've returned, using our old technologies, our old identities, to exact what they perceive as justice." The implications hit Ilara like a physical blow. The Confederation wasn't facing an external threat, but the ghosts of its own past actions. Humans, or what had once been human, seeking retribution for an attempted genocide that had been erased from history. "Why tell me this? Why not the Confederation Council?" "Your mind was open to the possibility. Others would dismiss us as a threat to be eliminated." Again. The sphere began to dissolve, its liquid metal form breaking apart into countless microscopic particles that swirled around Ilara like a galaxy of tiny stars. "Return to your ship with this knowledge, Ilara Voss. A choice approaches for your Confederation. Acknowledge the past and seek reconciliation, or face what humanity has become in the darkness between stars." The particles dispersed, some embedding themselves into her suit's external sensors. She felt no fear at this invasion, only a profound sense that she had been trusted with something momentous. As Ilara returned to the shuttle, she knew the Confederation would never be the same. The silent watchers had broken their vigil, and humanity, in whatever form it now existed, was making its presence known once more. What had begun as an investigation into destroyed outposts had become something far more profound. First contact with a species thought extinct, now evolved beyond recognition, and a reckoning with a historical crime that threatened to unravel the very foundations of the Galactic Confederation. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life, and for a moment, Ilara thought she heard that voice again. But this time, the message was different. Prepare them, Ilara Voss. The Watchers have waited long enough. The awakening begins. The awakening. The Grand Council chamber of the Confederation capital on Nexus Prime had never been so filled with tension. 500 representatives from 87 species sat in concentric circles around the central podium where Commander Ilara Voss stood, her posture rigid as she faced the scrutiny of the most powerful governing body in the known galaxy. "You expect us to believe," said High Counselor Vrax, his multiple eye stalks swiveling toward Ilara, "that not only did humans survive their extinction event, but they have evolved into something beyond our comprehension and have been watching us for 2 millennia. I'm presenting evidence, High Counselor, not asking for belief," Ilara replied, her calm voice belying her inner turmoil. She gestured to the holographic display, showing the analysis of the particles embedded in her EVA suit. "These nanites contain data storage capabilities centuries beyond our current technology. They hold historical records that directly contradict our accepted history." "Fabrications," dismissed Counselor Thelos, the eldest member of the progenitor species that had founded the Confederation. "Designed to sow discord among us." Ilara regarded the ancient being with a steady gaze. "Then how do you explain this?" She activated another holographic display, showing ancient Confederation vessels in Earth orbit from a perspective that could only have been captured from the surface of the now-destroyed planet. These images were taken from Earth before its supposed destruction. Confederation ships, observing humanity before we officially discovered them. A murmur swept through the chamber. High Counselor Vrax's skin flushed a deep purple, a sign of distress in his species. "If what you claim is true," said Counselor Neela, her feathered crest flattening against her skull, "then the foundation of the Confederation is built upon a historical crime of unprecedented scale." "Not just a crime," Ilara corrected. "A mistake. According to these records, our ancestors believed humans posed an existential threat to galactic stability. Their psychological evaluations suggested humans were inherently aggressive, territorial, and possessed an adaptability that could eventually outpace any other species." She brought up new images, humans fighting wars, but also humans creating art, building communities, reaching out to the stars with what seemed like childlike wonder. What our ancestors failed to understand was the duality of human nature. Their capacity for violence was matched by their capacity for creation, for empathy, for self-sacrifice. "This is all academic," interrupted Counselor Thelos. "Even if these allegations are true, they concern events from 2,000 years ago. The pressing issue is the attacks on our outposts now." Ilara nodded. "The attacks are being carried out by a faction of humanity that maintained physical form and harbored resentment over centuries. But they don't represent all human descendants. The being I encountered, the Watchers, they've been trying to contain this faction." As if summoned by her words, every display in the Grand Council chamber flickered simultaneously. The lights dimmed, and a voice filled the vast space. The same voice Ilara had heard among the ruins of Outpost Sigma 7, but now addressing hundreds. "Confederation Council, the time for observation has ended. We speak directly now." Panic erupted as security forces rushed to secure the chamber, but their technologies failed as every system came under control of an outside force. Ilara remained calm, having expected this intervention. "For 2,000 years, we have watched your civilization grow from the ashes of deception. Your ancestors believed our extinction necessary for your survival. They were wrong." The chamber's central holographic projector activated, showing a stellar map of unprecedented detail. Points of light appeared throughout, thousands of them, in regions thought to be empty space. "We evolved. Some of us transcended physical form, becoming entities of energy and information. Others retreated to hidden worlds, developing in isolation. We maintained the deception of our extinction to protect both ourselves and you." "Protect us," demanded High Counselor Vrax. "Your kind has attacked 7 outposts." "Not us. Those responsible are a splinter faction, those who never accepted the decision to remain hidden. For centuries, we have contained their resentment, but recent Confederation expansion has disturbed sites sacred to human memory. The faction sees this as desecration. Ilara stepped forward. The outposts were built using materials salvaged from what we thought were abandoned human facilities. Not abandoned. Memorials, records of what once was, left by those who chose to move beyond physical existence. By dismantling them, you inadvertently destroy the only connection the physical faction had to their ancestral identity. Understanding dawned on Ilara's face. The message, return what was stolen. They weren't talking about objects. They meant history, identity, recognition. Precisely. Their methods are extreme, but their grievance is legitimate. You have built your civilization on the deliberate erasure of ours. Counselor Neela rose from her seat, her ceremonial robes glimmering in the dim light. What do you want from us? Reparations. Territory. A sound like gentle laughter filled the chamber. We want acknowledgement. Truth. The faction attacking your outposts wants vengeance, but most of us simply desire an end to the deception. Your civilization is built on a foundation of lies, not because you chose to deceive, but because you were deceived by those who came before. The holographic display shifted, showing the evolution of humanity over 2 millennia. Physical humans becoming more diverse as they adapted to different worlds, while others transformed into beings of pure energy, and still others merged with technology to become something new entirely. We propose an alliance, a true confederation that includes all expressions of humanity. Together, we can contain the vengeful faction and begin a new chapter of galactic history, one founded on truth rather than convenient fiction. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. It was Ilara who finally spoke. How do we begin? The presence seemed to concentrate around her. You already have, Ilara Voss, by seeking truth despite discomfort, by questioning the narrative despite consequence. The first step toward healing is acknowledgement of the wound. High Counselor Vrax exchanged glances with the other council members before stepping forward. This council will need time to verify these claims, to discuss implications. Time is a resource we have abundant experience with, Counselor, but do not delay too long. The faction grows stronger with each passing day, and there are forces beyond your current understanding that have taken notice of this conflict. The holographic display expanded to show the galaxy in its entirety, with strange disturbances at its outer edges, ripples in spacetime that defied conventional physics. Your ancestors feared what humanity might become if allowed to develop naturally. What they fail to understand is that evolution cannot be prevented, only delayed. We have become something far beyond what they imagined, not because of inherent aggression, but because adaptation is the fundamental essence of humanity. The display zoomed in on one of the ripples, revealing something that caused gasps throughout the chamber. Vast structures existing partially in normal space and partially in dimensions beyond perception, clearly artificial yet operating on principles that defied conventional understanding. While your ancestors were trying to prevent our evolution, we were preparing defenses against threats they couldn't comprehend. The containment of these threats has been our primary purpose for centuries. Your recent expansion has unwittingly disturbed some of these defenses. Ilara's eyes widened as she understood the full implication. You're saying humanity didn't just survive and evolve. You've been protecting the galaxy from something else entirely. There are predators in the darkness between galaxies, Commander Voss. Ancient intelligences that view younger civilizations as we might view livestock. Your ancestors detected their scouts approaching the Milky Way and assumed the threat came from us. Their fear was justified. Their response was not. The chamber erupted in questions and exclamations as the Confederation Council faced a paradigm shift in their understanding of galactic history. Through the chaos, Ilara maintained eye contact with the shimmering presence that had taken shape above the central podium, a vaguely humanoid form composed of light and data. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. The figure seemed to smile. though it had no face in the conventional sense. Now, Commander Voss, we introduce ourselves properly. Humanity has many faces after 2,000 years of divergent evolution. Some will shock you. Some will inspire you. All are willing to join with your confederation to face what comes, if you are willing to acknowledge us as equals rather than ghosts of a shameful past. As if on cue, the chamber's massive doors opened. Standing in the entrance was a delegation unlike any the Confederation had ever seen. Beings of every description, some recognizably humanoid, others transformed beyond recognition, but all carrying themselves with the unmistakable presence of those who had witnessed the passage of millennia. Representatives of humanity, announced the energy being. Meet the Galactic Confederation. Confederation, meet your predecessors, and if wisdom prevails, your new allies. Ilara Voss, standing between two civilizations at the cusp of a new era, realized that her investigation into destroyed outposts had led to the most significant moment in galactic history since the founding of the Confederation itself. Humanity had not been destroyed. It had been transformed, fragmented, and evolved. And now it was returning to take its place among the stars. The voice that had once whispered through ruined outposts now spoke clearly for all to hear. The age of deception ends. The age of reconciliation begins. Earth may be lost, but humanity endures, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as guardians of a galaxy that has yet to understand what truly lurks beyond its borders. The future of both civilizations now hung in the balance, dependent on whether ancient fears could be overcome in the face of a greater common purpose. As the human delegation moved forward to meet the Confederation Council, Ilara knew that the next chapter of galactic history would be written not by ghosts of the past, but by those brave enough to face the truth and move beyond it together.